Welcome, Nick. I'm Sami Shimu, the Group Director for Apprenticeships at London South Bank University. I've been at the university since 2018. The university is one of the leading professional technical education universities in England. We have a vision which is about supporting people to progress through technical and professional education, providing opportunities for people regardless of their economical background or educational background. So that, in essence, has influenced our apprenticeship provision, apprenticeship strategy. We were established in 1892, so we have over 130 years of experience working with employers in various formats. So before even we started our apprenticeships, we had about 6,000 students who were sponsored by various employers. So it was crucial for us to be one of the forerunners offering apprenticeships when it came to higher and degree apprenticeships in England when the reforms happened in 2016. Now, apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships are really important for social mobility, for diversity inclusion, because they allow people the opportunity to get a full degree qualification while they learn on the job from really good employers like yourself, developing the skills, the knowledge and the behaviours required from that particular sector so they have future-proof careers through an apprenticeship. The other advantage I can see from doing apprenticeships for individuals come from the fact that they don't have to pay any fees because they're all funded through the employer or the funding system. They also get paid a salary, which is an amazing prospect. I recall when I was a young person, I had to take a student loan to pay for my degree, etc. So at London South Bank University, we have 33 different apprenticeships that we offer. 15 of them are in our construction, built environment architecture school. So we've got provision in areas like civil engineering, building service engineering, construction management, surveying and architecture. We also have one of the leading providers of the Chartered Town Planner apprenticeship. We have a number of apprenticeships in our Institute of Health and Social Care, so registered nurse, nurse associate, operating department practitioner, things around radiography, etc., which are areas of skills shortage and acute skills shortage. So whoever completes this apprenticeship will know that they have a guaranteed job at the end of it, and they will continue to have good careers for the foreseeable future. We also have apprenticeships in engineering, for example, things like a degree apprenticeship in rail engineering, working on signalling tracks, rolling stock, and so on. In general, the apprenticeships that we do are range between 3 years to 6 years, including the endpoint assessment. An apprenticeship obviously is a job with training. So the bottom line is the apprentices have to have an employment, they have to be employed by an employer, they have to be doing a suitable and relevant job to the apprenticeship standard they are signed to do. In the apprenticeship team at the university, we work very closely with over 1,000 businesses. We work with them on the onboarding stages, we work with them on recruitment. In some cases, we support the apprentices throughout the journey with us. And we try and consult with apprentices and employers to improve that onboarding and that apprenticeship journey continuously. Because our ambition is for the employers to find the experience useful, to actually bring a return on investment, and also for the apprentice to be successful and actually complete and achieve successfully. Because every apprenticeship is linked to an endpoint assessment. In most cases, at higher and degree apprenticeship, these are linked to professional body and professional recognition. So for example, if somebody's doing the civil engineer design apprenticeship, they do an endpoint assessment with ICE and they become an incorporated engineer, which in itself is obviously good for the employability, good for the career and good for the business, because if you have highly qualified staff who are professionally recognized, you'll be able to secure more business in the future. I've got Nick here from Waterman Group. I wonder if you have any thoughts in terms of how, as an employer, you work with apprentices, with LSBU. What made you take a decision in the first place to engage with the apprenticeship scheme as a Waterman?
Yeah, thanks Sami for that kind of background to LSBU, and it's been great obviously building this relationship over the years. So from a waterman perspective, we had a few apprentices in place before the new scheme came into place in 2017. So when there was the move to the new apprentice levy and the new move to the standards from the previous frameworks, I was recruited by Waterman, obviously just up the road, kind of 15-minute walk away, so very conveniently located for the university. I was basically tasked with creating a new apprenticeship scheme that could maximise the apprenticeship levy, because as an employer, a company with a payroll bill of over £3 million a year, as you probably know, has to pay 0.5% of their payroll bill to the levy.
Yes.
So we had to do that anyway, so we had money there that we needed to utilise. And it also helped that the company believes in apprentices as well. So I basically built an apprenticeship scheme which kind of built on the apprenticeship scheme we had before, but was obviously in line with the new levy, the new standards. So it was kind of a brand new scheme. And I also had to lead the development of the recruitment process. So with it being a brand new way of doing things, as I'm sure you know from those early days, there was a lot of work in terms of making sure that you were setting things up in line with kind of government requirements and guidelines and various boxes that you had to tick. So part of the process was really working out which training providers we should work with, and London South Bank University obviously have a great reputation, very convenient for our office, and importantly offered the kind of apprenticeships that we needed. As we know, with things like civil engineering, building services, those type of subject areas, there's only so many universities that offer those. And with London South Bank University having sort of ambitious plans at the time, expanding their kind of portfolio of apprenticeships as well, it seemed like a really good match. So I had an initial conversation with your account manager, and it's kind of developed from there. So we largely recruit, our main area of recruitment is civil engineering apprentices. So that could be level 4 at the senior civil engineering technician point, or the level 6 degree apprentice. We also recruit, not as many, but we recruit building services at level 6 as well. And most recently, we've recruited the still relatively new acoustic technician apprentice on that scheme, and that's at level 4, obviously. So we're now in a position where we've kind of grown quite significantly our apprentice population, and we have apprentices across multiple locations now, but particularly at the London office because it's our head office. And yeah, you know, we've had to sort of develop things over the years in line with the ever-evolving nature of the apprenticeship process, as I'm sure you're aware. You know, it's developed quite heavily since it came into place in 2017. But with our apprentices, we make sure that each apprentice has a mentor, and obviously a line manager as well. So they're working with those two people very closely and as part of the supportive team, just to make sure that they can maximise the apprenticeship opportunity. So they'll have 1 day per week at South Bank University. They will have plenty of opportunities in the workplace to complete work-based learning activity, which obviously has to be completed during their contracted working hours. And part of that process, for example, with civil engineering, is that they will be joining the ICE training scheme, the Institute of Civil Engineers training scheme, which is a crucial part of the completion of their apprenticeship, you know, thinking ahead to the endpoint assessment process. So with all these things in place, making sure that they can successfully achieve their knowledge, skills and behaviours, their learning portfolio, start to become rounded junior engineers really. we're making sure that they're on the correct path to ultimately achieve success at endpoint assessment. And of course we work closely with London South Bank University to get them through all of that.
Excellent. That sounds like an excellent scheme developed by Waterman, obviously under your guidance. So one of the things that we are really keen on at LSBU is how to ensure apprentices have the same experience or similar experience to somebody who is doing a full-time degree. Some of the things that we've done at the university, for example, is last year we've joined the Association of Apprentices, where apprentices now have an automatic membership to the association. They get access to free in-person social events. They get access to an online portal for learning, bite-sized learning activities. There's also a social platform that they can join and create communities within with other apprentices across England. We've also worked with our student union to introduce things that we call Lunch and Learn, where we have guest speakers coming from outside to speak to apprentices, various things, just really to make sure that they are not missing out, because obviously it's a difficult thing being an apprentice. You have a job, you've got obviously your learning commitments, you've got projects in the workplace, but you also got a social life. So we try and work with employers and apprentices to ensure they get that balance right. And I understand from speaking to apprentices and looking at the process itself, it could be challenging sometimes to find an apprenticeship. So as an employer, what kind of things do you look for in an application? How do you think a person can maximize their opportunity by finding an apprenticeship with Waterman?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Sammy. It's quite a competitive landscape now that apprenticeships have been around in their current guise for around about 7 years. There's more and more candidates coming through. So I think one of the things that's really important is, apart from making sure that they have all the grammar and spelling and everything correct on their application forms, because that really is the first impression you get of someone. And if they haven't bothered to check the small things, how will they be with the bigger things that they'd be working on within the business? So that side of things is fundamentally important. But then moving on from there, it's really looking for candidates that almost their application stands out from the others a bit more. So have they demonstrated really interesting, strong examples of team working? Have they been involved maybe in voluntary work or volunteering? Is there some kind of hobby or interest they have which is related perhaps to the actual work we do, maybe the software we use? For example, maybe they are already pretty good at using AutoCAD or Revit, those types of software. It's really making sure they can think about how they stand out from the next candidate, and also how they demonstrate an interest and a certain knowledge of Waterman and what we do. It's nice when you come across a candidate who's actually found out about the company they're applying to. That's
a really interesting conversation. I think the most important person here hasn't spoken yet. So
indeed.
We would like to hear your experience as an apprentice. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Tristan. I'm a first year civil engineer apprentice. I think in terms of getting into the apprenticeship, how to get into it, I did some work experience for Waterman Group, which I think was really important in finding out apprenticeships and finding out that Waterman offered that sort of system. And I think once you find out about it, and sort of all that's been in your head is, I'm going to go to uni after A-levels and get my degree, finding out that actually a company offers you, they pay for your degree and you get the 5 years experience, almost sounds too good to be true, really. So finding out about that was pretty amazing. And it's nice to sort of have these opportunities for everyone.
And how did you apply for your work placement? What made you decide to do a work placement in the first place?
Yeah, so I think I was lucky enough where my school in sixth form pushes people to do a work placement towards the end of year 12. they try and get you to do at least 2 weeks work placement for a company. And I happen to know someone who worked at Waterman, and I found out that way. But I think a lot of people were hoping to do work placements where in the business that they wanted to go into. And I think it's just a really important way to find out, sort of get a feel for what you want to do later on in life.
And how do you find, so obviously you're in year one, and you've been in your apprenticeship for 4 months or so. What are your first impressions in terms of work-life balance, the learning that you're getting in the university, but also in the workplace, and the practical experience you're gaining so far?
Yeah, I think the culture around it is very hard to balance. There's lots of work on you all the time, but I actually think the support networks in place and the work I'm being given makes it very manageable. You just got to really be on top of your time management, making sure you're logging those off the job hours, making sure you're completing coursework maybe a week before the deadline, just so you give yourself that time and give yourself that space to work through it. I think the 1 day at uni a week, it's sort of the same hours as your work hours anyway, so you're not doing any longer learning than you would have done at work anyway. And all the lectures, they're really helping. So we do maths, construction practice, materials and geology at the moment, and that's sort of given me the more really technical understanding for engineering, the more book side. Whereas when I do my 4 days a week at work, it's sort of teaching me maybe the CAD side and sort of what we do at work, opposed to what you would learn at uni.
And what was the reaction from your family when you said, I'm going to go and do an apprenticeship? Because obviously sometimes we hear that could be an obstacle to some people, especially younger people. Some people see degree apprenticeships are of less value than the equivalent degree when they are the same learning. In fact, I would argue that you gain more because you've got that practical experience and no debt at the end.
Yeah, that's a really good point actually. I had to explain to my family quite a lot that, well no, it's still the same degree and I'm getting the 5 years experience as well. I think the initial reaction about apprenticeships in general is that they're sort of not as good as they are now, which actually just isn't true. The degree and the experience, I think, amounts to much more than just the degree at the end of it. So yeah, it was definitely mixed reactions at first, but now that I'm in it and I'm showing them what I'm doing, I think they're a lot more believing in what I'm doing, which is nice.
Excellent. And I know you're the start of your journey, but what are your career aspirations? You know, if I meet you in 10 years' time, where would you want to be beside being the CEO of Waterman?
Yeah, besides the CEO of Waterman, I think following my route, so hopefully a chartered member of ICE, fully chartered as well. So first, obviously, we become incorporated, and then I want to become a chartered member. And then I'm thinking principal engineer, hopefully, just follow my route at Waterman, because I think once you go there as an apprentice and you've done your 5 years at the company, you really have time to embed yourself into that system. And I think it's the best way to carry on, sort of still be part of that system, definitely.
Excellent. And what would your advice be for someone who is in year 11 or year 12 or even year 10, who's thinking about their career options? What would you say to that individual?
I would have to say look into apprenticeships. I think not a lot of people in year 10, year 11 are lucky enough to know about apprenticeships. The awareness about them is very closed off, in my opinion. I know for a fact my secondary schools, or a lot of secondary schools, sort of push the traditional straight degree after A-levels. But if you want to go into something like engineering, a degree apprenticeship or just an apprenticeship in general, it's just the perfect way to push you into that environment.
Yeah, and that's correct. And I think there's even areas you wouldn't think there would be apprenticeship in are coming online now. So there's even a new degree apprenticeship to be a doctor, starting from September 24. So you potentially you work at a hospital. You do the same like what you're doing now, attend 1 day per week for 5 years or 6 years, and at the end of it you're a doctor. Wow. Doing an apprenticeship. There's an apprenticeship police constable as well at the moment. So there are 700 different apprenticeship standards, and I was looking the other day, about 300 of them are what we call level 4 to level 7, so the higher degree level apprenticeship. So there's a lot of room for people to progress. Sometimes you do like a straight level 5-year degree apprenticeship. Sometimes you can do a level 4 and then take a break and then do the level 6 after, but in the equivalent period. And in regards to your social aspect of your journey so far, how is that going? Have you made friends at the university? Have you made friends in the workplace?
Yeah, definitely at both. Even though I only see my uni friends once a week, it's still, the connection's still there. It's still like having secondary school friends, which is quite nice. And then sort of being able to socialise with people at work who would maybe be outside of your general group of what you would socialise, but going for work drinks after work and getting to know all different types of people or all different types of work colleagues on a personal basis is also really interesting as well.
Excellent, that's really good, thank you so much. And Nick, do you have any final thoughts for someone who is considering apprenticeship?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to think about. That the individual would need to make sure that they had the right mindset to have the correct work-life balance, to be able to learn and work at the same time, which is a big thing for someone who's just come from school or university. But I think for those kind of people, if they're unsure, they may well know somebody who already is an apprentice, or there may be somebody in the extended family or friend circle, whatever. So definitely speak to another apprentice to get a real world example of what it's like. As Tristan was saying, based on the route that he followed himself, work experience is a really good way of doing things. If we have somebody in Waterman who does 1 or 2 weeks work experience, goes really well, they're communicating well, they're picking things up quickly, it's going to make the interview process much more straightforward. It's like, this person seems like they could succeed at an apprenticeship. So we already would have a good feeling about how potentially they could do. So work experience is a great idea. Definitely attending any careers fairs that their school may be running, any apprenticeship talks that the school gives or that employers come in from the outside to give, and definitely to have a look at websites like Find an Apprenticeship, which is a government website, as you know, and I would say the majority of apprenticeship opportunities would be on that website. And certainly from our point of view, we put them all there because we know we're going to get a lot of people viewing them and hopefully applying.
Excellent. And I'll add to that, I think from the 24-25 academic year, UCAS is launched a pilot for apprenticeship jobs as well. So obviously that's an exciting prospect, because the aim of that is to make sure that higher degree apprenticeships are seen on a par of the normal traditional route. So I do hope that will show and allow more visibility of all the opportunities. So where the schools, like you mentioned, some of them are focused on the traditional route, then these careers advisors will see, actually there is a civil engineering job here as an apprenticeship. So let me talk to my students about it. So I do hope that in the next year or two we will see a lot more applications coming through the UCAS. We're certainly preparing for that at the South Bank here, and we look forward to working with yourself and other apprentices. Tristan, I would love for you to come back and help us in talking to future generations, in your experience. And thank you so much for giving up your time and talking to us today.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.